Okay, Auntie Pam, we're going to give this a go. This is actually the second time. The first time I paused to answer the phone and that didn't work so well. I couldn't get back to the other video, so we're going to give it a go again. And I'm going to pretend that I am sitting in your living room with you because that will make more sense than me sitting here talking to myself. So first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I got into doTERRA. So sort of my story and why it makes sense to me now, because I just wanted to point out that I'm not some crunchy granola mom now that, never uses margarine or butter and all that kind of stuff. That is not me. Never will be. I am trying to be a little healthier, of course, but doTERRA has been a big part of that. So basically, you know that years ago I was a nurse. I guess I'm still a nurse, but I was a registered nurse, a working nurse. And even with the 4 kids, I still worked. And even though I'd had some struggles in my pregnancies, I still managed to get through. But then my pregnancy with Helena was super bad. And when I had her, I ended up going into heart failure. And after that, of course, the problems, one multiplied onto another and onto another. And I ended up with high blood pressure and like extremely high blood pressure that put me in the critical care unit numerous times. And they really couldn't find a reason why this was happening. And eventually, and then pain, chronic, horrible pain, bladder pain, which they eventually did find. They thought was bladder cancer, but it actually was eosinophilic cystitis, which is some kind of, it's basically an allergic reaction of my bladder that causes these growths that look like cancer, and extremely painful, and it's kind of gross, but I was bleeding from my bladder and stuff like that. And so that's been going on for years. So anyways, at about, I don't know, 8 or 10 months ago, I'd had enough. I had hit like a severe depression with it all. I was not hardly leaving the house. It had gotten really, really bad. And I'd had enough. And I was kind of just researching some things, and I had been talking to my sister-in-law, who, like Tyler's sister, that lives in BC. And so they always seem to have, more happens there. And she told me, have you tried doTERRA? And I said, oh, what's doTERRA? And she's, well, it's an essential oil company. And I honestly, I just felt like shaking her at that moment, because I was like, I just told you that I am seriously ill, seriously depressed, and you're telling me to smell some nice oils, like I was like, really? And so I know how crazy I sound sometimes when I first try and tell people about doTERRA, but I have really discovered that it is so much more than that. I mean, they are a type of medication. They were the original medication, and my life, or the lives of my whole family, has changed completely. So she sent me some samples. She asked if I was open to it, and I said sure. And she sent me a little smelly thing like this that you open up, and like a Vicks inhaler thing, and you breathe it in. And she sent that for Helena, because Helena was really struggling. That 10 to 12-year-old girl age group where they start picking on each other really bad. And Helena was really struggling with anxiety over it, and she'd come home crying every day, and so she wasn't focusing on her school at all. All she was worried about was the girls, and how this one doesn't like her and that one hates her, and that whole thing. So Kimmy, thinking of the focusing, sent her some oils in this smelly thing. You'll see why I'm calling it that in a minute. In this smelly thing, and said, just get her to take a sniff of it at class when she's having trouble focusing on the schoolwork. So she used it some, and that was great. But the really crazy thing that happened was Carter was diagnosed as a young boy with ADHD, and I did not want him on medication at all, but eventually the doctors and the teachers, they pushed and pushed, and he ended up on Concerta. and her smelly thing went missing, and we were searching all over for it, and Carter, in his 14-year-old infinite wisdom, says to me, "Are you looking for that white smelly thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm looking for the white smelly thing." And he says, "Oh, well, I used that for my finals, and I just rocked them." And sure enough, a week or two later, he did rock them. He rocked his finals for probably the first time. And yes, he was still taking his Concerta then. But the point was that what he noticed was that was what helped. The Concerta alone never had made that much of a difference. So now we find with the oils supporting him, he takes his medication a lot less. And when he does, because of course it causes the side effects, which is always the problem with every medication, is it comes with side effects that then you have to take more medications for. And so when he does have to take it and he can't sleep, I have an oil vetiver that I use for him, and I put 3 drops in a capsule like this for him. You can buy these at any health food store. You can either get veggie caps or just these silicone type ones. I get them at what's that? Oh, a health food store. I'll think of it in a second. But anyways, old-fashioned foods. That's what it is. And I put 3 drops of vetiver in there, and he takes it, goes to bed, and he says he sleeps wonderfully. And since then, I've actually done some research on vetiver and ADHD, and it says that it actually does work if you use it daily for him. So we've been trying to work it into his system daily to see if we can, eventually maybe take out the Concerta altogether. And then for myself, of course, being on all those pain medications, I know you can probably relate. I don't know which ones you're on, but I do know that I was on fentanyl patches and massive doses of them. And I mean, the doctor said, you'll probably never get off them and whatever. Well, they don't know what they're talking about, because what I ended up doing was using the allergy relief oils. So the 3 oils that they recommend for allergies, using 2 drops each in one of those capsules, taking it orally, and like Kimmy had sent me, and I couldn't believe it. Like, the pain was actually decreasing. And then when I did have breakthrough pain, this deep blue rub is awesome. And Tyler loves it too for pain. It is the most wonderful thing you can imagine. And it's great for any kind of arthritis or anything, and I definitely will be recommending it for you too. So anyways, to actually get into a little bit about essential oils. Essential oils have absolutely really pathetic regulation, because so once I got really excited about these oils, the first thing I wanted to do was order them, right? But then I was noticing that they seemed kind of expensive, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna find them cheaper, right? And I thought I'll just order a few from Kim, because she was nice enough to do this for me, but then I'm gonna find them cheaper because there's oils everywhere now, right? So I went online and I did find ones like that were 100% frankincense and 100% peppermint, because that was the other thing, was headaches. And she told me, she sent me a little bit of frankincense, a little bit of peppermint, and she said, rub 1 drop of frankincense on the roof of your mouth, and then 1 drop of peppermint on the roof of your mouth. And she said, you will be shocked. And I was. I mean, literally every single time it works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but there are other oils that you can use on top of that if you're like a real migraine sufferer. But for my headaches, it worked. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to find these oils cheaper. And so I did find them cheaper, and it said that they were 100% and everything. And finally, I was just honest with Kim, and I said, they're just really expensive. And she said, did you look into their regulations at all? And I said, no. And so she said, here's the thing, Danielle. And when I did my own studying, I found this exact thing. Because essential oils are not a medication, and let's face it, the government and pharmacies and all that can't make money off of them. They don't put a whole lot of time and energy and money into studying them. And so they also don't put a lot of time and energy into regulating them. So what happens is the only regulations that exist are things that are as simple as they can put 100% frankincense oil on a bottle of frankincense, and it will, but then it'll say do not take internally. And what it'll be is that it only actually has to be 10% essential frankincense essential oil. Not only that, doesn't matter where it comes from, doesn't matter if it has fillers, pesticides, whatever in it, they don't regulate it, they don't worry about it. And so what happens is you might get one decent batch once in a while, but you're not going to get the same effect every time. And so doTERRA, that was how doTERRA was founded 8 years ago, was that they were a group of people that had loved essential oils and what they could do, but didn't like the way they were regulated. And so they said, okay, what if we do it the proper way? So they talked to the FDA and they said, because it started in the States. And so they said, what would we have to do to be regulated? And they said, well, we're not going to regulate you. Yeah, we get that. But what would you need? And they said, well, you'd have to have all these tests and it would have to be this, blah, blah, blah. Fine. So they did that. And they did all third-party testing. And they said, you know, we're going to do this, we're going to do it the right way, and we're going to make sure that they will consistently work over time and that they will come from where they best grow, which is why they are sourced in the countries that they grow best in by the farmers that have been growing and harvesting that forever. And as a farm girl, I got that. That made sense to me, because some companies, they say they do seed to seal, so they grow their own, and you might think that's great, but I kind of said it makes sense, right? Dad didn't grow corn because corn didn't grow here. Corn grows in Tabor, right? And so as a farm girl, this made sense to me. And so doTERRA, the crazy thing is that the way what essential oils actually are is basically the immune system of the plant that it comes from. So lavender is the immune system of the lavender plant, and orange from oranges, and it is the cells that protect it from disease and pests and any illnesses that can affect that plant. That essential oil protects it. So because we are made up of the same building blocks as living things, we all are, essential oils work on us in virtually the same way. So they will protect our immunity. They will build up our systems. And basically medications did start from essential oils, right? That's, the baby Jesus, it was frankincense and myrrh, right? We have frankincense and myrrh. I use frankincense every single day. My husband, does too, 2 drops every morning. And if you actually just Google sometime, and when I was thinking of your mom today, that's what I was thinking about. If you Google frankincense and cancer, even not specifically doTERRA, you'll see that there has been people that will put out the money now and then on some studies, and what they're finding is pretty miraculous. But of course, to actually get it to market, it may never happen. And so you just have to be either willing to put out the money or not. For me, it was worth it. It was a no-brainer, and I'm so thankful I did it. And I love being part of this company because I have seen lives changed. It's amazing. So essential oils are 50 to 70 times more potent than herbs. So like they say, 1 drop of peppermint oil is the equivalent of 28 to 40 cups of peppermint tea, 1 drop. So that's another thing when people say, oh, it's so expensive. Well, 1 to 2 drops is usually what the dosage of anything is. when you look it up. And you can find that in books or online on our website or on our Facebook page. As soon as you join doTERRA and sign up, you get added to this amazing Facebook page. And that's where you can get a wealth of information from there. And they have all sorts of protocols for cancer, for fibromyalgia, for MS, for absolutely everything. And you go through it. And then there's books, which anyone that signs up, I give a smaller version of a book like this, but I have like the Modern Essentials, the big Bible, and it literally has a usage guide in it. And you can go through and, I don't know, what did I turn to? I turned to the brain here. So brain injury or concussion here. So Carter actually had a concussion from football. And so he didn't have that bad of a one. But, it tells you what it is and the symptoms of it: ringing in the ears, vomiting, disorientation, and then the oils that are most helpful for it. Frankincense, and it shows either aromatically or topically or orally, and cypress, same thing. So then it'll say diffuse into the air and inhale directly from the bottle. Apply oil to hands, tissue, or cotton and inhale. Dilute as recommended and rub onto the brain stem area, the back of the neck, the temples, down the jaw. And then there's, for injury, for you name it, it's here. And then the studies that support it that have been done by all sorts of universities and stuff. So it's pretty amazing. So they're effective. So what's really unique about them, because we're all made up of the same building blocks. You know how the doctor, you've heard it a million times, oh, you can't take antibiotics for a cold or flu because they're not going to do anything. Basically, you just have to suffer through it. Well, we have already had the cold and flu hit through here once, possibly twice even. It's hard to tell because as soon as their nose starts running or they start to have a little cough or anything, I automatically start a flu bomb recipe on them. So that is actually how Tyler finally stopped calling me a voodoo queen. He was like, oh yeah, voodoo queen, even though I was diffusing Easy Air beside our bed, the respiratory one, and he wasn't snoring anymore. He kind of believed me, but that wasn't quite enough for him to believe that these were all that amazing. And, even seeing the fact that I was getting off pain. I mean, he thought they were great for me, but whatever, So then he's coming home from work one day and he can hardly even talk. And he's like, I need you to make me something. I don't know what with your voodoo stuff, make me something. And so I made him a flu bomb, which again has like 4 drops of lemon and then 2 drops of our On Guard, which is an amazing immune support one. Oregano, 2 drops of oregano, which is basically the best antibiotic you can find. Antibiotic, antimicrobial, antibacterial, all of it. Antiviral. And frankincense. And put it into a capsule again for him. And he took 1 dose, woke up the next morning, and he already had his voice back and felt better. He took 3 more doses and never did develop any worse of a cold, and it went away. And the reason that is because these oils, because they are made up of the same cellular material, they actually can enter the cell and kill the virus. So that is right there. I mean, I'm all for it, right? So, and then for the kids, because with children under 7 or sometimes with elderly people or people with really upset stomachs, stuff like that, or if they're just hesitant to take the oils orally, then there's 2 other ways that you can use the oils. And that's, I've got my diffuser going here. So here we go, diffusing On Guard right now, just because it's that season where I want to kind of protect the household. And you get about like 20% of, and I mean, you have to be in the room and whatever. So it is a way to kill germs. I mean, it's been proven in the hospitals. They now, in BC, in a lot of hospitals, they're starting to use doTERRA oils because it's been proven that they, tea tree and the On Guard, that they both are effective in killing MRSA. And I'm sure you've probably heard of it. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. That's the big guns that in the hospital they can't treat, and none of the antibiotics will kill it. Well, the oils are effective on it, and hospitals are catching this and believing this and understanding this and are starting to diffuse in the hospitals. I actually wrote them down that doTERRA, like they work closely with Vanderbilt and Johns Hopkins University. And Johns Hopkins, they've done tons of research on doTERRA, those two universities, and have proven that yes, they are extremely pure and potent and provide consistent effects every time. And so, yeah. So, but for children or the elderly or anything, you can make up a roller bottle, which would be something like this, okay? And you just, when you're using it topically, I always say to dilute it, because number one, it's going to go further. Number two, they're actually finding you don't have to dilute a lot of the oils, but some you do. So it's just easier, I think, to just say, just always dilute. And with an adult, you basically are going to dilute 1 drop of whatever you're using to dilute, which we use fractionated coconut oil, FCO, or liquid coconut oil. This cost, I think, $6.99 at the grocery store. So, and this will last for, I don't know, a long time. So you put what I'll do is, so Lainey says, I have a tummy ache. So this is a topical usage for children or for adults or for anybody. Or, so if she just has something that's happening right that moment, Lainey says, I have a tummy ache. Then I grab the Zengest, which is the tummy one, and it smells like black licorice actually. And I pour a tiny bit of my coconut oil in my hand and 1 or 2 drops of Zengest in my hand and rub it on her tummy, because I know exactly where the problem is. If it's more of a systemic thing, so that's when I use the roller bottles. And that's when I will, or if it's a long-term thing, and I'll mix up. So I have an On Guard one for my kids. So they put it on daily to protect themselves from colds and flus. And then I have a flu bomb one. So it's half, a little more than half for kids, coconut oil. And then the drops of the lemon, frankincense, the 4 oils, I double them because it's bigger, right? And so when Mitchell started to get a runny nose, I whipped out my flu bomb roller, because he's not going to take a pill, right? He could. He's old enough. He could take it orally, but he's not going to take a pill. And trust me, you do not want to try oregano in your mouth. You don't, like, you want to put it in a pill. So don't ever. Anyways, and so I just roller, so then you take the lid off. Take the lid off. Come on, lid. And it's got the little roller ball on it. And for flus, I always try and get to the lymph nodes. That's where I try and go, and the neck, and that kind of thing. And then he had a bit of a cough, so then I used the Easy Air, the respiratory one, and I took a couple drops of the coconut oil, a couple drops of the Easy Air in my hand, rubbed it on his neck. He's breathing it in then, so he's taking it aromatically, and he's getting it topically. And that is actually absorbed and reaches your tissues within minutes, and it's actually quite amazing. So, liquid coconut oil. So I didn't tell you actually to have a piece of paper and a pen ready with you. So, but you can watch this over and over if you have to. But those would be the kind of things that you, some kits come with, some kits don't. But none of the kits really come with the little capsules. So you'd want to buy either some veggie caps or some of those just 00 at the health food store. And then at the grocery store, you'd want to get some liquid coconut oil. Again, doTERRA does sell fractionated coconut oil. It's a lot more expensive, and I don't really think that needs to be, right? So, yeah. So then, like I had mentioned, they are extremely safe. So doTERRA, when they found out from the FDA what they needed to do, they did all the testing. They teamed with Johns Hopkins University. They got it all done. And they called it, like Johns Hopkins, they said, well, we'll call it Certified Pure Therapeutic Grade, CPTG, essential oils. You won't find any others. doTERRA is the only one. And so the thing is that you are guaranteed to have the same stuff in the same, and it's been numerous tests, third-party testing, always. And it's the highest quality essential oil. They are the #1 essential oil company in the world. They're in 126 countries, and they are amazing. So basically then, those are the 3 ways: aromatically, breathing it in, or diffusing it topically. I didn't mention too, another way when you're wanting to get it, if you don't know exactly where the problem is, then your feet is an awesome place to put your oils on, okay? So because your feet have lots of really big blood vessels in them, and they're tough, your feet are tough even, and that's why we say just, because a baby or whatever. So we always say your feet, and then, you want to put socks on. But the thing that people don't realize, I know I didn't, maybe I didn't know this, essential oils are not oily. They're like water, and that's why mixing it with some liquid coconut oil, it makes it spread further, because if you just put 2 drops of just essential oil and then put it on, it'll literally just go like right there, And if you ever have any sort of reaction of any kind to an essential oil, which most people don't because they are so pure, but if you do, don't go running to the water and try and wipe it off, because that won't get you anywhere. What you want to do is just add more of whatever you're using to dilute it, and just rub it, around to kind of get it further. So yeah. So basically, there's, for you specifically, when I was looking into it, these oils are amazing for the day-to-day kind of things. But when I was looking at you specifically, I really had to look at, trying to keep it affordable, and which way is the best way for you to start. And I know for me, when you have a lot of chronic illnesses or a lot of things on the go, the #1 selling product of doTERRA is their Lifelong Vitality Pack. It's right here. And it actually is 3 different supplements that, again, just like everything else with doTERRA, are completely pure. They're free of what they call fairy dusting. So basically, they don't put a bunch of little bits of things in there just so that the name gets written on the ingredients. So they only put stuff in there that you actually need. And the nice thing is that it comes from actually whole food products. So instead of putting some vitamin A powder in there, your vitamin A will come, it'll be in it, the spinach that's crushed up in there. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's actually really, really good. So the first one is, so you take the full dose of these, it is 4 of each of the 3 bottles a day in 2 divided doses. Morning and they say supper, or I do morning and lunch, because I do find that I have a huge increase in energy with them, and I just feel really, really great. And then I sleep better at night that way. And when you're first starting them, it's kind of recommended, especially when you've had such long-term chronic illnesses with your fibromyalgia And for me, with all mine, I started on a half dose. So I started on 2 of each, so 1 and 1, because I found that they do find that people, they kind of do detox you a little bit in the very beginning. And so when you're detoxing, it can feel not so good. I was extremely tired, really tired. And sometimes my legs would get a little achy and stuff. But I'm telling you, my nails, my hair, my skin, everything looked great, but I was tired. And that lasted for about a week, maybe 10 days. And then I really started to notice a difference. The amazing thing about the Lifelong Vitality 2 is that they will, if you don't find a difference after using it for a month, you can send back your empty bottles and they will refund your money. So yeah, the food nutrient complex, that's this one. And that one has all your vitamins, your regular vitamins that you need. So the A, C, D, folate, folic acid, magnesium, all those kind of things. And so it's coming from, what I really love about it is that it's coming from kale leaf powder, dandelion leaf powder, parsley, broccoli, all sorts of things that you've heard of that are actually good for you to take. And then the essential oil omega complex, this one is what helps with your brain and your heart health. So it's, again, the fish oil, you've heard of omega-3s. And so this one is the one that they recommend. Plus it has 11 of the essential oils in it that I was talking about. So it has frankincense and stuff in it, so that you're actually getting, it has a tummy taming blend in it. And then the cellular vitality complex is all about how basically, I didn't really know this, but our cells, they're meant to live for a certain amount of time, die, and that's it. But unfortunately, with all the toxins and everything that we take in, our cells, and as we get older, our cells start to, instead of, living and then dying, they live, get a little deformed and some issues, and multiply, and then die. And so then we have these not so good cells, right? So this kind of is the way of replenishing the proper cellular activity. And then what's usually recommended to take with it, you would have heard these are probiotics, right? I know for a while there, I was told, oh yeah, if you take that yogurt, it's in the yogurt. And so I was like, oh, okay. And that was great. And I'm sure there is lots of probiotics in the yogurt. The problem is that they don't actually make it to the small intestine where they need to go. And so what ends up happening is that they die off before they actually get where they need to go and what they need to do. So doTERRA did a bunch of research and found that if they encapsulated it in one capsule to get it through the stomach, then it would make it to the small intestine. But then what was happening was they were dying before there was enough food there sometimes to start working on to keep the little probiotics happy. So then they wrapped it in chlorophyll. And so now when they make it to the small intestine and they break free, they've got chlorophyll to eat and be strong, so that when the food that we are taking in makes it there, they can do their real work. And so this is a 1 a day kind of a thing. And Terrazyme. So this is what I am on. And this is what they recommend most people, everybody should be on. Then when I did the research for you, specifically with fibromyalgia and for the pain, was, remember I had mentioned the deep blue rub in the beginning. So the deep blue rub will be great for breakthrough pain. And that is just to be applied to wherever you feel the pain. The problem with fibromyalgia is it's all over, as far as I understand it. And I mean, it could be in your head one day and in your, it's more of a systemic thing. And so there is a supplement called Deep Blue Polyphenols, and they're made from similar ingredients as in the Deep Blue Rub, but they actually work systemically. And so you can take up to 2 of those a day. So that would be when I looked up, and I actually, on that site that I was talking about, I put, my auntie has fibromyalgia, and, what have other people found that works. And this was what everyone said time after time, was she needs to be on the LLB system with the Deep Blue polyphenols. And then for breakthrough pain, she needs the Deep Blue Rub. And then there's a roller that we can make up for you too with the Deep Blue. Now, the one thing is, these oils would all be very beneficial for you too. So it's just going to be a matter of what you start with and how we get you going. But I basically just wanted to give you an introduction to the oils and kind of get you started so that you can see what they're about. And then we can talk about the kits and what would suit you best. So you sign up with a kit to doTERRA, and then right this month until the 20th, they are 20% off. And so this is the month to sign up. So I would, if you're interested at all, love to get you started at least with some of it, whatever you would like to do. So what I'm going to do is kind of finish up here, then I'll send this off to you, and then maybe we can talk on the phone and see what is the best way to go. I know you're really struggling right now too with your mom and everything that she's going through. I just think that it might be possible, like I said, that some of this could be of huge assistance to her too, especially if she's so determined to do the chemotherapy. It's going to be a hard road for her, especially at her age, and maybe some of these things, like some of the tummy things and, the immune system blend and the immunity roller, like some of this might be of really benefit to her too. And if you were signed up, then, we can talk and get some things going for you. And you don't have to get it all at once, like we can get you going. There is one kit that I'm kind of thinking of for you. But I also need to know kind of your budget and how you feel about all of this. So yeah, there is also one of the ladies I wanted to point out too mentioned that that there was a really great roller recipe that helped her a lot with her fibromyalgia, and it's the Siberian fir, the copaiba, frankincense, and marjoram. And she actually takes it orally. But she said she's also used it in a roller too, and it has worked both ways for her. But when I asked if this was what she'd recommend, she said all that plus this. This is what she does and has done now for years. And she said, and then what I found when I was looking, most of the things you mentioned were secondary to fibromyalgia. And of course, with the arthritis, the Deep Blue Rub, all the pain stuff, that's all going to work for that too. But when you mentioned, the weight thing and the sleep and stuff like that, the brain fog, there are lots of oils that can help with that if doing this alone doesn't make a difference. But I wouldn't be surprised if it does, because a lot of people get on the LLB and they find that then they're not pouring things into capsules too much and stuff like that. And they find that in itself, they'll lose, 10 pounds and they'll have more energy, and then then they can hopefully decrease some of the medications that most likely are assisting in causing some of the brain fog that you're experiencing. Because I know that was an issue for me too. And then sleep, man, like I said for Carter, vetiver in a capsule, or we do have Serenity soft gels. Again, they're just an oil blend in a capsule. None of this is actually, a bunch of meds that are going to interact with anything. that you take. The only thing that I say is, of course, if you're starting to notice that your pain is decreasing, that things are, that you're feeling better, that's when you're going to have to go to your doctor for sure and say, like, okay, I need to start decreasing some things. Where should I start? Don't just try and do it on your own, and I'm probably not of huge assistance with that. But with the oils, if this turns out after a month you notice no difference, then there are all sorts of other options to try. So it's not like it's a wasted thing. So yeah, I hope you got some benefit out of this. And this was good for me too. First time I've sat here and talked to a computer for 45 minutes, so that's good. But I did picture myself in your living room, not your new living room, your old living room. Yeah, and I think I covered everything you said. And there is actually a lady that when I posted on the site, a lady named Jody Marsh that has fibromyalgia herself, who's fairly high up in doTERRA now, and she actually runs a Facebook group, kind of a off leg of the group that you'll be added to, that, she said she would love for you to join. It's called Achy Afflictions, and it's for people with fibromyalgia that are using doTERRA and stuff to try and they have also like a wealth of information there. So yeah, so I'm going to talk to Scott now and get him to try and figure out how to send this to you. And yeah, we'll be in touch soon. Love you. Bye-bye.